Okay, we are back looking at Chapter 3 again. We talked about the IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, and we looked specifically at consonants. And we took some time to think about the consonants and where they are articulated, so place of articulation, and then also manner of articulation. And we noticed that there are pairs of sounds that are both located in the same place. So like these two are bilabial locations, these two are labiodental locations, but then they also have the same manner of articulation. So these are stops and these are fricatives. And this can be important for people learning English to note because the only difference between the two sounds is whether they are voiced or voiceless. So practicing those differences between p and b, t and d can be really helpful for students learning English. A few other sounds that we didn't get to yet. The glottal stop is the sound that you hear in the middle of uh-oh, that little stop sound after and Michael Jackson is famous for that sound. Let's see if we can go back and hear him. Right here at the end, he did that little glottal stop. And then a flap sound, can also be called a tap sound, is where the T is reduced in a sense so that it sounds kind of like the D, as in the word butter, right? You don't hear butter, butter. So listen to this.
New and improved, I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah, you get it, butter. Another example might be water, right? In Spanish, the word pero, I can't do it very well, pero, has a little flap on the top of your roof of your mouth. So those are two additional sounds that we use in English. And then we'll move on to the vowels. Vowels are the hardest part to learn if you're learning English because there are so many different vowel sounds in our language, and it can be hard to differentiate between them. Some of them sound quite similar. For example, there's the E sound and the I sound. E, I. They're very similar. They're made in a similar space in your mouth. And then as we move from a sound made with the tongue up, like E, it changes very slightly. E, and then to a. Those two are very similar as well. So height is the first characteristic of a vowel that we think about. If the tongue is high or low, right? And then the other characteristic we think about is front to back. So is it a sound like E in the front of your mouth, or can you pull it way back, E-O, and put it in the back of your throat? And that would be a vowel in the back. All the vowels from top to bottom in the back sound like ooh in the back of your throat. And then in the very middle is the schwa sound, which we'll come back to. That's the most common sound. Since I teach English as a second language, and I know some of you are education majors, I figured I'd touch on this, how to teach vowels to students who are learning English, because it can be super tricky. I start with just the 10 basic sounds, and instead of using the IPA symbols, which can be quite confusing, we keep the same alphabet letters, and then we just add this little diacritic, right, a little line above to show that this sounds different than this one. So this is the name of the alphabet letter, A, E, O, U, I, and then the other ones I call the silly sounds, so A, E, A, I. And I even teach students with keywords like apple, elephant. Here we open up our mouth real wide for ah, like at the dentist office, up, and itch. And you can use whatever keywords you want. but then we do a lot of comparisons, so minimal pairs, which we'll talk about in chapter 4, the difference between bait and bat, and why when we have 2 vowels, the first one says its name. When there's only 1 vowel, we get that silly sound, ah. So here's that vowel chart close up again with some keywords. So we've got the E sound in fleece, I in kit, A in face, right? E in dress, A in trap. And then the diphthongs have their little dotted arrows. So we start with I, and we come up to the I sound for price, I, price. For sofa, the sound is going to be the schwa here. Strut is this sound. It's a little bit longer, but a very similar sound to the schwa, is that short U sound. Choice, oi, it starts with the and goes to an I sound, oi, choice. There's another diphthong. And the last diphthong they show you here, like in mouth, is ow, ow. So it starts down here, ow, and then your tongue goes up or your mouth closes. So you can think of the height of the vowel both as where your tongue is located in your mouth and also as how open your jaw is. So up here, your jaw's going to be rather closed, and then as you open your mouth up, your tongue goes down, and you get these lower sounds down here. We've got ah for palm, al, ah for thought, slightly different, again, very similar sounds. O for goat, for foot, and oo for goose. So again, the sounds go ooh, ah, and over here, yeah, and then the schwa and the sound in the middle. To teach students, this is super confusing, so one thing I also use is this vowel color chart. So you can teach them the color of a word. So any word that has this E sound is green, and then you can find a silver word. I like to use their names. So my name is Tiffany, and I look for the peak vowel sound. So the I, Tiffany, is going to be the same as I in silver, pin, I. For my husband, he's Carlos, Arlos. So we would have a discussion, is that more like olive or auburn? Carlos. And I would say it's probably more like an auburn color name. You can kind of see where this goes. That schwa sound is super important because it's over 50% of the vowel sounds in our language change to schwa. And the reason we do that is because in English, we have this need to muffle all of the other less important vowels in a word or words in a sentence and just focus on one peak vowel sound. So if you've got a word like banana, the peak is the second syllable, na, and the other two, b and n, turn to schwa. So instead of banana, we get banana. If you have you can change your screen to FaceTime or pull up your phone to look at your mouth. I had some little mirrors I was going to bring to class. Actually try to watch yourself say these different sounds and see how your lips change shape. So if you do the A, E, I, it's like a smile, right? And then an O is really rounded. A oo is a little bit more open. Again, that E like a smile. And then trying to do the different consonant sounds. Here you've got that labiodental f, v, right? Qu, w. With the tongue behind your teeth and the alveolar ridge there. And then all of these different ones. Has your mouth slightly open, and the sound is formed further back in your throat. Here's your bilabial sounds. B, p, ch, j, sh. This is the hard one with the tongue right between your teeth like that. And then this is the last thing I wanted to get to today. Hopefully we have time to get through it. It's really interesting. It brings in that acoustic phonetics where we're looking at the sound waves. And somebody's saying the sentence, the spy wanted to buy a blueberry pie. And just watch and see what happens with those sound waves.
This waveform is a visual representation of the sound waves that Kendrick just produced. See that I can select certain parts of the sentence and play them back.
Spy.
Let's look first at buy. You can see that there's a very brief silence. That's where Kendrick's lips were closed for the bilabial stop. Then when he releases his lips, the waveform gets nice and big for that sonor's vowel I. Now let's look at pie. You can see the same silence where the lips are closed and the same big waveform for the vowel I, but before the vowel, there's this noisy burst of turbulence. That's the aspiration on the P. And now let's look at spy.
Spy.
We see the turbulence at the beginning. That's for the fricative S. And then there's this silence where the lips are closed for the P. And then there's this nice sonor's vowel. But there's no burst of noise following the release of the lips, because the P in spy was not aspirated. In fact, if I select just the pie portion of spy, what does it sound like?
Spy.
To a native speaker of English, this part sounds like buy, because the P is unaspirated. But listen, it's from that word spy.
Spy.
I think that's so interesting. So let's take a look at another example of this aspiration, this idea of aspiration. So here you've got a voiced consonant B, so there's not going to be any aspiration there. But here you've got two of the same articulation, same place, same manner, right? P and B. And here you've got no aspiration, just a voiceless P sound. And then here you do have the aspiration P. So I want you to hold up your hand in front of your mouth, the back of your hand, and say the word spin. You shouldn't feel too much breathiness against your hand. Spin. Now say the word pin. You should feel that burst of air because of that aspirated P right here. And you can see that there's even a little bit of extra time after your lips come apart, that air is still flowing through there. And this is where you feel that air from the aspiration. All right, the last thing I want to show you is a way to listen to IPA sounds on this website here. It's a little bit easier to click and listen to the vowel sounds.
E.
And they have all the vowel sounds, not just the English ones here. You can scroll down to do the consonants as well and other symbols. And then to transcribe words. So here is what you'll be using for your homework, for your quiz, I should say, for this week. And you'll be using the different symbols to transcribe a message. You'll have to add your vowels in there down here. See, I should probably make a real word. Let's do the one we just practiced, pin. There you go. And we'll continue on from here with chapter 4 coming up on the next screencast.